HOA Karen, decorated my pool for a party. Then I turned on the wave machine, Part 1, the Flamingo invasion. I pulled into my driveway and froze. There, peeking over my backyard fence, was a giant inflatable flamingo. At first, I thought I had the wrong house. Then the bass dropped. Party music. So loud it shook my windshield. I sprinted to the gate, weekend bag still slung over my shoulder, and what I saw made my jaw hit the grass. My backyard had been turned into a full-blown beach resort. Tiki torches lined the pool. Beach balls bobbed lazily in the water. A DJ booth, on top of my patio, blasted beats beside my grill, which, by the way, was buried in half-eaten burgers and soggy paper plates. And then I saw it. A massive pink and gold banner draped across my pool house. "Happy 50th, Cheryl." I blinked. Who the heck is Cheryl? Dozens of strangers danced around my pool. Kids cannonballed into the deep end. Someone, I swear, had a chihuahua floating on a donut-shaped raft. And a man in sunglasses. He raised a shrimp skewer at me and grinned. "You try these yet? Pretty decent." I didn't answer, because my eyes were locked on one person. Karen, HOA president. Sundress, sunglasses too big for her face, sipping from a coconut and giving orders like she was the queen of Tiki Island. Two teens were stringing fairy lights across my hedges, under her command. I stormed over, stepping across towels and someone's shoe. "Karen, what in the actual world is going on?" She barely glanced up. "Oh, you're back early," she said, like she was surprised. "We thought you were gone till Monday." "We?" I asked. "You broke into my backyard." She sipped her drink, waved a hand like it was no big deal. "It wasn't locked, and it's Cheryl's big day. She's never had a pool party before." I looked around again, at the guests, the chaos, the woman getting a foot massage on my patio furniture. And I could feel it. That slow-burning rage. The kind that doesn't explode. It simmers. "You have no right to be here," I said. "This is my home." Karen rolled her eyes. "It's just for a few hours. Don't be such a grump, you weren't even using it." "Oh, Karen, you messed with the wrong neighbor." Part 2. She called it community spirit. I called it trespassing. The moment the police SUV rolled through the front gate, the entire vibe shifted. Karen's triumphant smirk vanished, replaced by a look that screamed, "Wait, this wasn't in the plan." The officer stepped out slowly, scanning the chaos. The toppled cake table, the soggy balloons, the wave-soaked party guests now wringing out their designer shoes. And then, his eyes landed on her. "You the one who cut the lock and threw a party here?" Karen blinked, like a deer caught in headlights made of flashing red and blue. "Excuse me?" she tried, voice teetering between sweet and scandalized. But the officer didn't bite. "We saw the footage," he said flatly. "You broke into private property and hosted a large unauthorized event. That's trespassing. And depending on what happens to that DJ booth," he nodded toward the smoking speaker, "it might even qualify as reckless endangerment." A ripple of gasps spread through the wet crowd. Karen's face went pale, then pink, then a shade of red that matched her punch-soaked shoes. Cheryl, the birthday girl, peeked out from under the DJ table, lettuce in her hair, clutching what was left of a soggy cupcake. "Karen," she whispered, "you said this was all approved." Karen ignored her. She spun back to the officer, eyes wide. "It was just a party. We didn't mean any harm." The officer turned to me. "Do you want to press charges?" I took a long look around. confetti plastered to my hedges, skewers floating like driftwood, and some guy clinging to my pool ladder yelling about his missing Crocs. "Yeah," I said slowly. "I absolutely do." That changed everything. Karen's shoulders dropped like she just lost a pageant and a promotion in the same breath. She started waving her arms, pleading with guests for support. But no one backed her up. Someone quietly slipped away with the last slice of cake. Another chased their dog, now hiding under the barbecue. Even the DJ packed up his gear, muttering, "I didn't sign up for this, man." The banner that once read, "Happy 50th Cheryl," drooped sadly behind her, one side flapping in the breeze where the zip tie had snapped. Karen stood ankle-deep in spilled fruit punch, party makeup smudged, her dignity evaporating with every soggy step. The officer started collecting statements. And me? I just leaned against my wave machine panel, arms crossed, watching the woman who tried to hijack my home now try to salvage her narrative. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. To her reputation, her clipboard credibility, and probably her HOA presidency. And I hadn't even pressed all the buttons yet. Part 3. Karen tries to rewrite history, but the internet remembers. The morning after the birthday party, I stepped onto my patio with a fresh cup of coffee and surveyed the wreckage. The inflatable Flamingo, deflated, and wedged under a bush like a beach toy crash-landed from orbit. My grill still had streaks of salsa drying like a bad modern art piece, and the pool, floating in the corner, a lone flip-flop, bobbing like a survivor from the Karen Carnival. But none of that prepared me for what came next. Because at exactly 11:02 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from the neighborhood Facebook group. There it was. Karen's post. A wall of dramatic text, accusing me of maliciously sabotaging a wholesome community event, calling it an unprovoked aquatic attack. She claimed I'd endangered children, weaponized pool technology, and even dropped this gem. The turbulence was violent, unnatural. Some say it looked like a tsunami. I nearly spit out my coffee. But the best part? She attached a blurry screenshot from the wave footage and circled a splash, claiming it was proof of my deliberate wave-based aggression. You'd think people would buy into her act. Except, everyone was there. Guests started commenting, some with their own photos, others with videos of beach balls flying like projectiles and skewers floating past birthday banners. One comment read, "Honestly, it felt like SeaWorld met Jerry Springer." Another, "Karen said it was her friend's pool. I didn't know she meant friend of a neighbor she's spying on." Then someone, bless their soul, leaked Karen's private planning messages. She'd told her clique I was on vacation, that I never used the pool anyway. And my favorite, "If anything goes wrong, I'll take full responsibility." Famous last words. The thread exploded. Screenshots, memes, even a TikTok edit of Karen shouting into the mic, perfectly synced to dramatic violin music. But the real explosion came during the HOA emergency meeting 2 days later. Karen tried to spin the whole thing as a misunderstanding, said I was jealous of her influence, and that my pool had always been a community space, whether I liked it or not. That's when Greg, sweet, quiet Greg from Lot 12, stood up. He pulled out photos, receipts, and calmly explained how Karen had also borrowed his patio furniture last year, without asking. Said she returned it before he got back from a trip, but left it covered in glitter and guacamole stains. The room was silent. Then someone clapped, then another. "And Karen?" she snapped. "I'm the face of this community," she screamed. then stormed out, again, slamming the HOA meeting room door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. And just like that, Karen wasn't just the HOA president anymore. She was a meme, a legend, and the star of her own downfall. But something told me she still had one last party trick up her sleeve. And this time, it wasn't going to involve shrimp skewers or floating cake. It was going to involve lawyers and lawsuits, because Karen, she wasn't going down without a final splash. Part 4. Karen. Lawyered up, but so did I. 2 weeks passed. No parties, no posts, no Karen, just silence. But I knew her too well. With Karen, silence wasn't surrender, it was a setup. Sure enough, one Thursday morning, I opened my front door to find a manila envelope taped to it. Certified. Legal letterhead. Very official looking. Inside, a letter from Karen's attorney, or rather, one of those cheap online legal services that sell customizable legal threats for $49.99. Still, she tried. The letter claimed I had created an unsafe environment for minors, inflicted emotional trauma upon party guests. And my favorite, caused wave-related psychological distress. There was even a list of damages, a broken speaker system, a ruined sundress, a catering refund for soaked kebabs. I almost choked on my cereal. That's when I walked straight to Dave's house. Dave, my neighbor. Also, a real lawyer. Also, not a fan of Karen. He read the letter, took one long sip of his coffee, and said, "This isn't a lawsuit. This is a tantrum with a watermark." He grinned. "I'll represent you, free of charge, for the sheer joy of it." And that's when we went to work. I pulled every file, every clip, every screenshot. We built a mountain of evidence. Footage of Karen cutting the lock. Screenshots of her messages bragging about the party. Her Facebook post calling me uptight. And, of course, the infamous wave video. But I didn't stop there. I filed a counterclaim. Civil, clean, precise. Trespassing, property damage, unauthorized use of private amenities. It wasn't petty. It was justified. Karen had poked the wrong neighbor, and now she was facing the splashback. Word got out fast. The community buzzed. Some thought she'd back off. But Karen? She doubled down. She called for a boycott of me. Told the HOA I was weaponizing the legal system, trying to kill neighborhood spirit. She even started a thread titled "Defending Kindness from a Cold-Hearted Pool Owner." The reaction, let's just say, the laughing emojis outnumbered the likes 10-1. Even Cheryl stayed silent. And when someone asked if she was at the party, she left the thread. Karen was fighting a war she'd already lost. And then I unveiled the sign. A 10-foot wide waterproof banner hung just outside my fence. Private property. Trespassers will be turned into surfers. Underneath, in smaller print, courtesy of HOA Wave Day. Never forget. It went viral locally. People came by to take pictures. Some teens made it their summer selfie spot. One neighbor started the hashtag #KarenSplash 2025. It trended for 3 days, but beneath the laughs was a message. Karen had taken something from me, and I had taken it back. Not with rage, but with waves. And she was about to find out. That the legal ones? Hit harder. Part 5. The Trial of the Tide, Karen versus Reality. The court date arrived, sooner than I expected. I didn't dress fancy, just a polo shirt and jeans. Karen? She showed up in a blazer 2 sizes too big, dragging Cheryl behind her like a reluctant, emotional support animal. Her hair was curled, her face powdered. but her eyes nervous. The courtroom was small, local, and no frills. The judge, a middle-aged man with heavy lids and zero patience, called the case number, then paused and read aloud. Claimant alleges emotional trauma due to wave-related incidents in a backyard swimming pool. He looked up slowly. Well, that's a first. Karen leapt to her feet and unleashed a monologue. How I sabotaged a community celebration. How I endangered innocent children. How I humiliated her in front of the entire neighborhood. She cried. She waved a printed meme of herself, dripping wet, red-faced, and clinging to a floaty. She pointed to Facebook comments. She even pulled out a binder of printed screenshots, many of which were clearly jokes. The judge let her go on for exactly 4 minutes and 32 seconds, then cut her off. Ma'am, did you have permission to host this event on the defendant's property? She hesitated, eyes flickering toward Cheryl. I didn't think he'd mind, she said weakly. So, that's a no. He turned to me. My part was simple. I handed over the video footage of Karen cutting the lock. The HOA minutes, showing no mention of any approved event. The texts, where Karen told guests, it's totally fine, he's away for the weekend. I read one aloud. If he finds out, I'll take the blame. No big deal. There was silence. The judge flipped through the evidence, clicked play on a video of Karen shouting into a microphone just before the waves hit. He sighed. This is not a case of emotional trauma. This is trespassing. Pure and simple. Karen opened her mouth to protest, but he raised a hand. You cut a lock, invited dozens of people, accessed his home, damaged his property, and now want him to pay you? He slammed the gavel. Case dismissed. Karen didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there, frozen, as if the waves had hit all over again. Cheryl tugged her sleeve, whispering, let's just go. They shuffled out, defeated. Dave leaned over, smirking. You just made HOA history? I smiled, but not because I won, because I'd done it right. Calm, fair, precise. I hadn't fought fire with fire. I'd used facts. And Karen? She drowned in them. Part 6. The HOA cleans house, and Karen gets wiped out. The courtroom may have cleared, but the shockwaves? Oh, they were just getting started. By the time I got home, someone had already updated the HOA Facebook group. A simple post. Just 2 words. Case dismissed. And under it, a comment from Greg on Lot 12 that read, Tsunami beats clipboard. The floodgates opened. Memes resurfaced. Screenshots of Karen's legal letter with the phrase, wave-related trauma, circled in red. GIFs of people surfing. One neighbor even posted a clip from Titanic with the caption, Karen's party right before the iceberg hit. I didn't say a word, didn't comment, didn't gloat, but someone else did. The HOA board. The very next evening, they called an emergency meeting. Public, in person, no live stream, no filters, just folding chairs and cold lemonade in the clubhouse. I almost didn't go. But curiosity won. The room was packed. People whispered as I walked in, not out of malice, but support. Even Cheryl gave me a nod from across the room. Awkward, but sincere. Then the board president, a man named Paul with tired eyes and a tight tie, stood up and cleared his throat. We need to address the events of the past month. He didn't name names. He didn't have to. Karen sat in the second row, clipboard on her lap, arms crossed, face tight. Paul continued. The HOA was never meant to be a personal tool or a source of conflict. We failed to prevent a very public embarrassment. He paused, then dropped the bomb. Effective immediately. Karen Cartwright is removed from all committee duties, indefinitely. Gasps, whispers, one slow clap from the back. Karen jumped up. This is a witch hunt. Paul didn't flinch. It's a vote, and it's unanimous. She turned to the crowd, seeking backup. But nobody moved. Nobody even made eye contact. It was over. Right there. The clipboard, once her sword and shield, now sat useless in her lap. She grabbed it, stormed out, and didn't slam the door. Didn't even speak. The silence, louder than any speech. After the meeting, people came up to me. Some shook my hand, others apologized for staying quiet before. One woman, Mrs. Langley, who once reported me for overgrown hedge aesthetics, handed me a banana bread and whispered, "You saved the soul of this block." I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt free. The next morning, Karen's house looked different. No decorations, no lawn signs, no porch light, just a stillness, like a storm had passed and left nothing behind. But the biggest change? It wasn't Karen. It was us, the neighborhood. We weren't just avoiding her anymore. We were growing past her. And as for the HOA, they passed a new policy the very next week. One simple rule. No events may be hosted on private property without signed consent from the owner. Unofficially, it's called the Karen Clause. And yes, it passed unanimously. Part 7. From meme to movement, the day my pool went viral. You'd think that after the court ruling and Karen's HOA removal, things would finally calm down. But nope, that was just the intro. Because the day after Karen got booted, something unexpected happened. My inbox lit up. An email from a local news station. Subject line: Backyard pool battle. Can we interview you? At first, I laughed. I thought the whole thing had run its course. Memes, meetings, margaritas. But they weren't the only ones. By noon, I had messages from a podcast called Neighborhood Nightmares, a YouTube drama channel, and a guy who literally runs a TikTok account called Karen Chronicles. Apparently, someone had uploaded courtroom footage from the small claims case. Karen, waving the printed meme of her soaked-in punch, me, deadpanning. She let a chihuahua ride my Flamingo float, and the judge, shaking his head in disbelief. The internet? Ate. It. Upper. Someone even made a remix. Wave-related trauma! Auto-tuned over crashing wave sounds. It got 300,000 likes in a day. Another clip showed Karen screaming, "I'm the face of this community," overlaid with a flamingo spinning in slow-mo, with explosions in the background. That one? 1.2 million views. I wasn't trying to be famous, but the story had legs and floaties. People weren't just laughing anymore. They were relating. Veterans messaged me about HOA abuse. Parents sent photos of backyard pools with new signs. No Karens allowed. One guy in Colorado renamed his hot tub the Splash of Justice. A woman in Florida painted a mural of my wave machine with the caption, "Don't start none, won't surf none." And the cherry on top? A rep from a pool gear company messaged me saying, "If you ever want to monetize that wave machine, call us." I didn't reply. Not yet, because this wasn't about fame. It was about something deeper. People, all across the country, standing up to entitled bullies and saying, "This is our home, our peace, our rules," all because one Karen threw a party on the wrong pool. Part 8. Karen's final play, and the storm she didn't see coming. Just when I thought the waves had settled, Karen came back, not in person, not on Facebook, but through paperwork. A thick certified envelope showed up on my porch. Inside, a zoning complaint, filed by none other than Karen Cartwright. I laughed at first, Honestly, it felt like satire. She claimed my wave machine violated city noise ordinances, posed structural risk to nearby fences, and, my favorite, was causing emotional shock to neighborhood pets. Yeah, apparently her cousin's cat had PTSD from the Flamingo incident. But this time, Karen wasn't just being annoying, she was being strategic. The goal? Not to win. Just to wear me down, drag me into meetings, tie me up in red tape, make me spend money defending my own backyard. Classic Karen move, death by 1,000 clipboard complaints. But I wasn't the same neighbor she tangled with last summer. I'd been through court, HOA war, national memes, and waves. So I did the only thing that felt right. I fought back, not with rage, not with memes, with momentum. I emailed the city, attached every document, video proof, photos, eyewitness statements, even the HOA policy named after her. I also added something new, a petition, signed by 118 neighbors, all stating that the pool, and yes, the wave machine, had become a source of joy, not chaos. Kids learned to swim here. Veterans came to relax. Birthday parties were now actually hosted by the homeowners. Karen? She didn't stand a chance. The city replied in 2 days. Case dismissed, no violation found. Boom. But it didn't stop there. Apparently, someone at the zoning office had a sense of humor, because at the bottom of the letter, under official remarks, it read, "Consider installing earplugs for traumatized cats." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. Karen tried one last jab, a letter to the local newspaper, painting herself as a victim of viral bullying. But the paper refused to run it. Instead, they featured a piece titled, "The HOA That Got Washed Away," and "The Pool That Changed Everything." And just like that, the tide turned for good. Karen was done. And the neighborhood was finally free. Part 9. The pool that became a legend, and the summer that followed. Summer rolled in, but this year it felt different. No flyers on my door, no clipboard warriors marching the street, no whispers about HOA, meetings in someone's garage, just sun, laughter, and peace. The Flamingo float was back, proudly patched, the grill upgraded, the wave machine, still armed, but calm, like a dragon sleeping under the surface. I hosted the first official Neighbor Splash Day. No drama, no RSVP, just a table of lemonade and a backyard full of kids and parents, smiling like they hadn't in years. Even Greg from Lot 12 brought out his speaker and DJ'd. Cheryl showed up, too, with a store-bought cake this time, and quietly said, "I'm sorry for all of it." I just nodded. We'd all moved on. But the legend? That never left. Someone added a pin to Google Maps. Wave Machine of Justice, HOA Survivor Landmark. No joke. Tourists started pulling up, taking selfies by the "Trespassers Will Be Surfers" sign. One guy asked if it was real. I told him, too real. Local students made a short film for class called Karen versus the Pool. And the funniest part? It won. Best comedy. Even the new HOA board asked if they could use my backyard for next year's summer party, with permission. Of course, I said yes. Because, in the end, this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding. About reminding people that rules shouldn't drown out humanity. That pools aren't just for swimming. They're for memories, for healing, for taking your power back when someone tries to hijack your peace. And when I sit back now, watching the sun ripple across the water, I don't see chaos anymore. I see community. I see calm. And I see one soaked HOA president, still drifting around the internet on a flamingo raft meme, forever. Part 10. The Last Splash and the quiet victory. The sun was out, the water still, and for the first time in months, there wasn't a trace of drama floating in my backyard. No rogue flamingos, no tiki torches, no soggy party platters or clipboards with fake authority. Just peace. But peace doesn't mean forgotten. Karen might have vanished until her house now dark, hedges, overgrown, mailbox stuffed, but her final move had already made its way to my door. Another envelope, another claim. This one, a request for community reconciliation mediation. It was laughable. She wasn't suing this time. She was asking the HOA to force a sit-down so she could clear the air. My reply? I mailed it the next morning. Just one sentence. Air's already clear. Try breathing it. I thought that was the end. But then a neighbor knocked on my door. It was Greg from Lot 12, the soft-spoken guy who once exposed Karen for borrowing his patio furniture without asking. He handed me a flyer. Annual HOA Summer Celebration, hosted at Lot 12. Poolside games, music, community. I blinked. You're throwing the summer party? He grinned. Figured it was time someone did it right, with permission, and so it happened. The biggest block party the neighborhood had ever seen, planned legally, hosted joyfully, and with me behind the grill, spatula in hand. Kids danced around the pool, teens posed with the famous private property, trespassers will be turned into surfers sign. Someone even played the wave footage on a projector screen at sunset, set to dramatic orchestra music like it was a war documentary. Laughter echoed, old fences mended, and for the first time our street felt united. And Karen? She watched from behind her curtains, a shadow. No more clipboard, no more power, just the echo of a rain that ended in soggy napkins and viral memes. I didn't wave, I didn't gloat. Because revenge? It's not always loud. Sometimes, it's the soft ripple of water after the storm has passed, and you're the only one left standing. I took one last lap around the yard, kids smiling, neighbors chatting, and the pool? Calm, sacred, mine. I looked down at the wave machine remote in my pocket and left it there, because this time, the only waves I wanted were from the people waving goodbye after a perfect, drama-free summer day. Epilogue. The ripple that stayed. It's been months since the wave machine last roared, and yet its echo still lives on. The sign is still there, bold and proud. The pool, still calm, but ready. And the neighbors? Closer than ever. Nobody talks about Karen anymore. Not because we forgot, but because we moved on. That's the real win. Not the headlines, not the memes, not even the court victory. It's the quiet, earned through chaos, preserved through resilience. And every time I sit at the water's edge, with the sun warm on my back and the world finally still, I smile. Because some storms don't wash you away. They wash the nonsense off your deck and leave behind something better. Peace. And maybe, just maybe, a little splash of justice.